Have you ever wondered why it is so hard for us women to remember our power? I still remember it so clearly. I was 7 years old in my room. I went downstairs and was met with the angry face of my father. "You left the door to the hallway open," he said. Bam! A jolting pain surging through my head. He slapped me like many times before. I remember staring at him in disbelief that he would slap me for just leaving the door open. I ran up crying to my room, alone with my tears and my pain. I felt powerless. I didn't know it back then, but this powerlessness followed me all my life, in relationships, in my career, everywhere. But today, I feel more powerful than ever. I have never in my life known myself so deeply and felt more connected to myself than today. Having guided hundreds of women on this path back to themselves, back to their voice, back to their body, back to their power. How I got here? Well, one of the biggest wounds I needed to heal was the father wound, my daddy issues. And in this video, I will share the 3 main steps that I had to take in order to completely change my life, change my relationships, and change myself forever. So step number 1, how I healed the father wound, was to release the wound from my body. I'm gonna say this over and over and over again. Trauma is stuck within our body. If we want to heal, we must release this stuff from our body and from our subconscious mind. So it's a two-way kind of thing. So when I do this kind of work, when I do shadow work, I go into a deep meditation, I bring up the emotion, I release it through my body, and while I do this, I allow myself to feel the emotion, because the emotion is only stuck in your body because we have not been allowing ourselves to feel it. So in childhood, we don't have the tools, so we cannot really feel what's going on inside of us. That's why it gets stuck in our body, and then later on it will attract a bunch of stuff into our life that reflects this kind of wound within ourselves. So releasing it from the body through movement, with the voice, with your whole being, with your breath, all of that comes together. And that's how you start to reprogram your body, the patterns in your body, and the patterns that keep you stuck in your life. And when it comes to the father wound really affects us on so many levels in our whole life, in our business, the way we show up in the world, especially in romantic relationships with men, and the way we trust men, and the way we show up in relationships. So many things have to do with the father wound. And if we have felt powerless in our childhood because our father suppressed us, oh my god, that was like a huge bumblebee, so cute. So if our father wasn't there for us, if he suppressed us, if we weren't allowed to show emotions, all of that gets stuck in the body, and that is what we need to release. And if this is calling you, I'm going to open a whole course dedicated to the father wound in April. So if you're interested in that, if you're interested in healing these kind of wounds, if you want to be guided through all of this process, because I know it can be a lot, especially when you're by yourself, it's really not so easy to guide yourself through these kind of things. So if you want guidance, if you want guided practices, guided meditations, and really a whole roadmap on what to do with these wounds and how to release them so you can really attract healthy love into your life, then check out the link down below. You will find more information on that. Step number 2 is to reparent yourself. When I say reparenting yourself, I mean that we have to give ourselves that which was not given to us in childhood. So we have to give ourselves the emotional support, compassion, love, care, in order to meet the needs that haven't been met in our childhood. And this also plays into reprogramming our subconscious mind. And this is something that's very important to incorporate into your day, the way you talk to yourself, the way you show up on a daily basis. Like, what is your morning routine? Do you have a morning routine? Do you have a morning practice where you connect with yourself? Are you having positive self-talk in your mind, or are you beating yourself up in your mind? And of course, this is not something that's gone overnight. However, it is very important to make an effort to reprogram these things on a daily basis. And this plays again into the first step. So once you do the first step with releasing these kind of patterns, there is already a basis where it will get easier to implement these nourishing aspects into our life on a daily basis. Step number 3 is forgiveness. And I know that forgiveness is not an easy one. I know that forgiveness can be incredibly hard depending on what you have experienced in your childhood. And when it comes to these things, there are also certain journeys you can do. Like I guide people, women especially, I guide them through a forgiveness practice where it is very important to see the inner child of a father. Because always remember, our parents have raised us based on their level of development. And our parents had their own stuff, you know, like our parents had a lot of trauma when they were children. And our parents also, at one point, were an innocent child that experienced abuse, an innocent child whose needs were not met. And so they passed it on to you. So once we can step outside of our bubble, of our own experience, and look at it from an eagle's perspective, from a higher perspective, we can see that nobody that we have in our lives, nobody who's hurting us in our lives, is wanting to hurt us. Hurt people hurt people. I will say it again and again and again. Hurt people hurt people. Because if we're stuck in resentment and anger towards this person, towards our fathers, towards our mothers, it's not going to help us on our journey. We will stay stuck in a certain way, which doesn't mean that we have to rush forgiveness, because that's a process that cannot be rushed. Some people take a long time to forgive, and I took a long time to forgive my father. And at the same time, it was a very natural process, and it was a process that set me free. Like, it literally set me free. So at the end of the day, you don't forgive someone for them, you forgive someone for yourself, because it doesn't set them free, it sets you free. And also important is that you don't need someone to say sorry in order for you to forgive them. Because many of our parents, they're not aware of these things, right? And even if we would tell them, most likely they don't understand, because they grew up in a completely different environment, in a completely different generation, where all these things about trauma and wounds and healing were just not a thing. So they're most likely still stuck in these patterns and maybe don't even recognize what they've done to you. But that doesn't change the fact that if you are able to forgive them, you're gonna set yourself free, no matter what they do. And that is also a big part of taking your power back, because if we are always placing the blame on other people, we will always have a problem, because we cannot change other people, but we can change ourselves. We can change our perspective, and that's at the end of the day what helps us to move on and to be free. And the last step is to reclaim your body, to reclaim your voice, to reclaim your anger, and to reclaim your power. And this is something that I deeply work on with my clients, because it's one part to heal the stuff, to release the patterns, to heal the trauma, but then it is a completely different story to reclaim our power and to step into the light. So the first step is meet our darkness, grow deep roots in the darkness, get to know ourselves, get to know our patterns, get to know our shadows. And then once you're kind of through with this, you move into reclaiming your power, reclaiming your body. Because as children, if you had a father who was either absent or emotionally abusive or physically abusive or anything like this, then chances are that your voice is blocked. Your voice is so powerful. I have a whole course dedicated to the voice and the womb, because when we are children and we're so suppressed, we're not allowed to shout, especially as girls, right? It's always be a nice little girl, be nice and quiet, don't speak up, don't speak your truth. And what that does, it blocks our voice. And later in life, we will struggle with setting our boundaries. We will struggle with telling people the truth, with speaking our truth in relationships, with speaking our truth in a job. We won't be able to stand up for ourselves, to take up space in the world with our voice. Our voice is such a powerful tool. Like, when you unblock your voice, you are automatically taking up more space in the world, because the way you project yourself through your voice into the world widens. It gets louder, it gets more present, it is more here. and it boosts your confidence levels. It boosts the way you show up in the world. And so I had to take a deep dive into my voice. I mean, I'm also a singer, so that was also a reason. But our voice is not only for singing and for talking. Our voice is so much more. Our voice, if you think about it, is literally the way we project our soul and our insights into the world. And if we're disconnected from her, if we have blocked her, then we will struggle to be powerful women. And also our bodies, it's a very similar thing, right? The way we show up with our bodies, our body language, the way we move in the space, the way we are either hunched over because we try to protect ourselves or are open in the world. That determines so many things in our lives. It determines how people view us. It determines how confidently we can show up. It determines how we can powerfully express our souls in the world, which is a beautiful thing. And so many women are so shut down because of all this trauma and because we haven't been taught how to reclaim our body and our voice. And also, if you have experienced sexual abuse, I always should, like, I don't think I can say these things on YouTube, or my video will probably get like banned or something. So I'm trying like to, you know what I'm talking about. So I experienced that as a child. And so it was a big thing for me to reclaim my sexuality and my sensual body and my pleasure. Like, it was such a blocked thing in me, to the point that in relationships I would have a really low sex drive. And trust me when I say, if you have a low sex drive, there is nothing wrong with you, but it is something that can be worked on, because once you break through this barrier of our sexuality, and there's so much shame, there's so much guilt and shame around sexuality, especially for women. Oh my God, I have experienced tons of that. And so reclaiming your sensuality and your pleasure as a woman is an absolute game changer. And the energy that flows through your body when you experience orgasm, when you experience pleasure, is life force energy. It makes you literally feel more alive in the world. And if you combine, and also it's creative energy. So if you have a self-pleasure practice on a regular basis, that energy flows through you and it awakens all your senses. And the way you show up in the world will change completely. So if you reclaim your body, your voice, and your pleasure, your life will change forever. I cannot stress this enough. And so again, if you're interested in diving into these things, because self-love will be also a big part of the course. So if you're interested in that, check out the link down below. I would be so excited to have you in that group, because I know it will be a game changer. And I have literally been working through all these things my whole life, and I have taken women onto that journey, and it is freaking beautiful to see women bloom up and open up and like release all these things that keep us small and keep us tiny and that keep us afraid to show ourselves and afraid to step into our powers. And this kind of work is so transformational, because we can literally reprogram anything that we've been taught. We can relearn anything that we've been taught and rediscover ourselves for the first time, to really feel who we truly are at our core. Like, what is our essence? For the longest time, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know where I was going in life. I had no sense of purpose. I felt so lost. And now, looking at my life, I feel so much more alive. I feel so much deeper connected to my voice, to my body, to the way I experience life, and seeing the world through eyes that see so much beauty is ridiculous. Literally, like, I cry so many times being in nature, and just looking at the scenery I'm looking at right now is ridiculous. Like, it is so beautiful. And opening up all of these portals is gonna change the way you view the world, and it will give you back this sense of beauty and pleasure in everything that you do. And don't get me wrong, we slip sometimes, I slip sometimes, but the question is, once we have established all these things, we will find our way back again and again and again, because we know what it feels like to be in your power. You know what it feels like. So when you lose it, you recognize it, and you know what to do to bring yourself back into it. And now, if you want to know the 4 core wounds that keep women stuck, then I recommend you to watch this video, where we'll go into deeper detail on which kind of core wounds keep us stuck. Besides the father wound, there are some other wounds as well.